Hello, Bulldogs. This is your host, Blake Walters, and you are watching Spotlight on Bulldog TV. And today we're coming at you with a little bit of a different segment, and we're going to be talking about some awareness this month. And so we have our guest here. Why don't you introduce yourself?
Sure. My name is Mrs. Hillard, and I am a supportive services teacher here at the high school. We're going to talk about dyslexia awareness.
Awesome. So what is dyslexia?
Dyslexia is a specific learning disability that's neurobiological in origin. So that just means that it's in the brain, and the brain works differently than the way we teach reading most of the time. So it can shows in places with reading and spelling and reading comprehension, but it's what we call an unexpected disability, and that it has nothing to do with intelligence. So you can be an incredibly smart person, such as Albert Einstein, and still have dyslexia.
Very interesting. So going along with that, what are some commonly misunderstood things about dyslexia? What are some myths that people have?
So often people think that dyslexia is where you just see letters backwards or upside down, right? Like a B looks like a P, looks like a Q, looks like a D, right? And although those things can be somewhat confusing for a dyslexic brain, the numbers don't typically flip around, letters don't flip around, things don't move on the page. It's really just about the way that the right brain and the left brain connect, and it's just not as an efficient method of reading as someone who has a different brain. Another myth would be that that intelligence thing, Albert Einstein himself, Walt Disney, Magic Johnson, a lot of people that have incredible strengths and incredible skills outside of reading also have dyslexia. The last one I want to talk about is that dyslexia is rare. People sometimes don't use the word dyslexia, and there was a time in our education system when we would say that's kind of an antiquated word for just what we would call a specific learning disability. And at this point in time, there are probably about 1 in 5 students in the school. So if you have a class of 20, you would have about 5 students that would have dyslexia. And that's something that most people think that it's really rare, or it's a word that we don't use anymore. But if we call it what it is, then we can treat it appropriately and help students learn how their own brain works and how they read.
Gotcha. I bet a lot of viewers didn't know all those myths. So going along with that, it is Dyslexia Awareness Month. So what should we do, and how can we recognize it this month?
Sure. So a few different ways that you could kind of get involved in Dyslexia Awareness Month is really just to kind of pay attention to your own reading and struggles, and kind of give an understanding ear to someone who says, man, I hate to read, or this feels like a waste of time, or this takes longer for me, and kind of go, If it's easier for you to what we call ear read, right, and listening, then that's cool, right? I wouldn't say, hey, you're not so smart if you're blind and you have to finger read, you have to use Braille. So if you have to ear read to understand something, so kind of understanding where people are coming from. Additionally, there's lots of things that you could watch on YouTube. There's lots of events that you could attend here in the Champaign-Urbana area. I don't have anything real specific as far as something I'm involved in, but kind of understanding that often the students and adults, you don't grow out of dyslexia, have those challenges, and understanding the way your own brain works and the way you learn is the best way to kind of overcome it and see success. Over 50% of entrepreneurs have dyslexia, and over 40% of students at the MIT technology school have dyslexia. So it is not uncommon, and it does not mean that you're not smart. So understanding those things and being supportive to your friends, because they're in your class, who struggle with reading, is a great way to kind of understand more and be supportive of the dyslexia student or adult.
Got it. I'm sure we could all act with a little bit more compassion to everybody. So going along with that, how can teachers or students help those with dyslexia, or just kind of, like I said, act with compassion or kindness?
Absolutely. So yes, again, just making sure that you are respectful and you understand everybody's brain learns in a different way. If you're a teacher, you can make sure that you say things out loud and don't expect everything to be read. If you If a student needs extended time or they need to listen to things we've got our handy dandy Chromebooks, right? And there's lots of extensions that can read our information for us. So if you see a friend and they've got their headphones on and they're reading through a passage or a PDF on their computer, you know that they're probably doing that ear reading instead of eye reading, where that comprehension can increase and they can understand more about it. So just making sure that every student has the voice to say, this is the way I learn best, and I would appreciate it if we could do X, Y, or Z extended time listening to things instead of reading them. Another thing, if you're in a small group and the teacher says, I want you to read this and then summarize it as a group, and you all just quietly look and read your paper, chances are somebody would benefit from you reading that out loud and doing it together in that way. They're not going to be the one that wants to read it out loud, but if you're someone who is a strong reader, you might be able to offer that, and that naturally just goes along to make sure that everyone is included and all learning styles are covered when we meet all of the different where we can see it, we can hear it, we can do it, right? All of our different methods of learning.
Thanks for that insight. So that's going to wrap it up here for another edition of Spotlight on Bulldog TV. I want to thank Mrs. Hillard for joining us. I'm your host, Blake Walters, and we're out.